The Minnesota Vikings are 1 week into training camp. What are the biggest things we can take away from it? How are the quarterbacks doing? Should we worry that JJ McCarthy is struggling? Should we worry why he's struggling is a better question. How are the wide receivers doing without Justin Jefferson? What's the defense look like? We're going to answer a lot of those questions here tonight on the latest episode of the Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Real Forno Show, sponsored by your friends at Underdog Fantasy. My name is Tyler Forness. With me, as always, in the top left corner is producer Dave. And Dave, I'm drinking tonight. I'm doing a little bit of Busch Light Lime, but I was not prepared for bourbon. Let me tell you that much.
I'm doing still Austin straight bourbon.
Are you able to get that in Missouri?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's sick. I know you like those guys a lot. That rules.
Oh yes, they make some good bourbons and rye and gins. Surprisingly, and I don't like gin, but I like their gin.
What's interesting is if you can distill, and especially something like bourbon, if you can make a good bourbon, you can pretty much make a good anything, because bourbon is there's so many subtleties that need to go in it for the bourbon drinkers. Like, you can make a Jim Beam where you're just mixing it with Coke and calling it a day. But if you're making a bourbon for someone like yourself, then
sipping it, yes.
Mm-hmm, then you should probably consider branching out. Like, everybody does a craft vodka. Like, around here, everybody seems to have a craft vodka. And to me, they're kind of all the same. Gin, however, is an alcohol that's very, very loaded with subtleties, just like bourbon is. So if you can get gin down, oh, buddy, there are some interesting worlds to go to in that realm. Gin is a very, very interesting booze. Mm-hmm. But we are not here to talk about alcohol. We are here to talk about the Minnesota Vikings. And I want to start here because there are going to be people who mention it. About 15 minutes before the show started, Terry McLaurin asked for a trade from the Washington Commanders. So they're like, oh, the Vikings should try and do 3 deep again. I love the idea of doing 3 deep, but if you trade for McLaurin, he wants a new deal. So the only way I would say that this would make sense is if you trade a 3rd round pick for him and then let him walk in free agency and you get another 3rd rounder back in a compensatory selection. I don't think that is a plausible outcome, because the whole reason McLaurin asked for a trade is he wants a new contract. He is 29 years old. He's about to turn 30 next month. And because of those factors, he wants some of that long-term security. He wants that 3rd contract. Justin Jefferson signed his big deal at 25 years old. He's going to be able to renegotiate at 29, meaning he's going to sign that 3rd contract in the same way McLaurin did. McLaurin was older going into the league, so he's only entering, I believe, his 6th season or 7th season. Like, he was 23 when he came in. So it's a little different in his scenario. I'm very intrigued to see what he ends up fetching, either when it comes to a new contract or a trade, because, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, I mean it in a very nice way. He's very boring. He isn't overly explosive. He just wins, and he's just very good at all the technical stuff. He's very good at finding ways to get open and coming down with the football. But if you kind of look at his entire game and be like, what is this guy just great at? What is the one trait that you can just bank on? And honestly, it's effort. And it sounds like that might be an insulting thing, but it's not. He just wins, and he's really, really good. But that could end up preventing him from making super top dollar. Because I think he wants in the 30s. And I don't think the Commanders believe he's worth the money in the 30s. And what doesn't help is Courtland Sutton, who's on a similar plane to McLaurin, just got $23 million a year over 4 years. Doesn't really help his case. So it would be fun to have him on the Vikings. I don't think it's plausible in a multitude of senses. If he was like a 1-year mercenary, yeah, I think you'd consider it. But if you trade for him, you're going to have to give him buku bucks.
And like T-Bass pointed out, we're $60 million in the hole for next year, and it doesn't make sense. Now, from what I gather, the commies are refusing to trade him.
They've completely no-sold everybody who's called. But this is now a different situation where McLaurin has requested the trade. He had not previously requested a trade. He just wanted the Commanders to pay him. And when the Commanders, however they've gone about it, have just decided to not pay him, now things are changing. And I think that's where the intrigue really comes in.
Now, I read a tweet where they've been getting calls since he's requested the trade, and they're saying,
yeah. They've been getting calls from everybody. Honestly, the Bills and the Patriots need to be calling, and they need to just spam Adam Peters, the general manager. Just spam call him. Continue. Because both of those teams could use an alpha on the outside. And McLaurin, what's the right way to kind of frame this? He's kind of a versatile piece where you can line him up outside, you can line him up in the slot, he can play X, Y, and Z. And because of that, that gives you options for whatever else is in your wide receiver room. You don't have to pigeonhole him at one spot, where like an AJ Brown, he's only playing X. He's not going in the slot. He's not playing Z. You're playing that man at X, and he's real good at it. McLaurin, you don't have to pigeonhole anywhere, which I think is a really valuable asset. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. The market might not be kind.
If he does get traded, I hope there's one team he does not go to.
The Green Bay Packers.
Exactly.
All right. Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Some really interesting things coming out in training camp today, Dave. One of those things over the course of the last week is JJ McCarthy. McCarthy has not had a great camp. He has not had a bad camp. I'd say he's had a good camp. And good is a very relative term because there have been some really, really nice throws. There have been some really, really good moments. But at the same time, it's been very inconsistent. And inconsistent is kind of something that you expect. It's also something that you're prepared and ready for. When I take a look at what McCarthy's done so far, I wish it was a little bit more up and down. I wish we were seeing some really good days and some really bad ones. And the reason why I want to see bad days is because that's when a lot of the learning is done. When you throw 2 or 3 picks in a day, and then you have to go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, why did we throw those picks? What are we going to learn from them? And is this a throw that you can make in a regular season game? I want to see more of those learning opportunities. And quite frankly, we really didn't have them until the other day. I think it was Tuesday's practice when McCarthy really started kind of making some of those quote unquote mistakes. I wish that he were a little bit more aggressive in that sense during some of these practices to make mistakes. You don't want them to throw interceptions, but you want them to throw interceptions because it shows that they're trying to learn and trying to figure out what they can get away with and how they can grow and maneuver throughout the course of the regular season. It's also extra frustrating that, and this is both normal and not normal at the same time, the defense is wrecking their shit. They're preventing the offense from really doing much of anything. And that's a good thing because, one, the defense at this point should be ahead of your offense. Defense is easier to kind of get together on a cohesive level than offense because there's so much chemistry and timing, especially in Kevin O'Connell's offense, that you have to utilize. But 2, I also think it's a great learning opportunity for JJ McCarthy because now he has to figure out how to beat this defense. And once he beats it, then you have to continuously grow with him. And I think some of those elements are really interesting. And Kevin asked an interesting question in the chat. Should they, in hindsight, have traded more capital for Drake May? I don't think you can really say anything other than what your pre-draft philosophy on that was. My philosophy was I would have made the trade for Drake May. I would have given up that draft capital to go get him. I don't think we've seen anything to evolve me from that opinion. Whereas on the flip side, if you believe that they should have held and drafted JJ McCarthy and not given up that draft capital, I don't think there's anything that we've seen that should sway you from that opinion. So I really don't think that we have any information to change anyone's minds yet. I was a little disappointed with the McCarthy pick in the sense that I really thought Drake May was going to be this massive game changer, and I still do. But I have warmed up significantly since the day of the draft because of how we've seen him grow, how we've seen him handle all the adversity thrown his way, how we've seen him handle practice and grow mechanically, grow with some of the decision-making stuff. He's doing a great job of utilizing progressions when I've seen him in training camp. He's going 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way back over to 1. He's doing those things. So as far as like, who would you rather have, like May, McCarthy, any of that? I really don't think we have any information to completely sway anybody at this point. And I think that's fine. I think it's good that we are still in a position where we're not having second guessing of, we should have just given up the draft capital to go get Drake May. Because I don't think we've seen enough from McCarthy yet to really distinguish that he, for lack of a better term, that he stinks or he's really good. He's still kind of an enigma. And I think we're going to see really, really quick how good he can be, especially given what his surroundings are. His surroundings are bonkers. They're real, real good. And I think McCarthy has a lot of talent. But we need to see more before any of those beliefs before the 2024 NFL draft on what you wanted to have happen can really be altered. I think the only guy who might have shown you anything that says, hey, we probably should have just targeted Jaden Daniels because Daniels is so good as a rookie. And he grew in so many areas that he maybe wasn't super proficient at when he was at LSU. I think he's the only one that's shown you enough to be like, all right, we should have just got that guy. But you also had no chance to get that guy. So it kind of is what it is at that point. But I do think with McCarthy, it's just that I've always been steadfast. I want to wait and see. I want to see. And we're going to start to see it September the 8th. And once we do see it, oh, buddy, I can't wait. I want to see how he grows. I want to see how he evolves. And I think those things can be really, really fun and interesting over the course of the next, 5 years. And I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye out on Drake May. I'm not going to bring it up every week. Like, I wanted them to get May. They didn't. It is what it is. But I do think it's going to be interesting to compare because he would have been the guy. I don't believe the Vikings were on Bo Nix. I do think that O'Connell likes Michael Penix Jr. But Nix was a guy with how he played that just did not mesh with what Kevin O'Connell wanted to do. So, and that's just my own feelings aside. We all know I didn't like Bo Nix coming out. But I don't think Kevin O'Connell liked the play style of Bo Nix to really help elevate the offense that he wants to run. So it'll be interesting to follow, Dave. Saw a lot of head shaking. I'm guessing you agree for the most part with kind of what I'm saying, that we just, whatever you believe before the draft is, we just don't have enough to change minds yet.
For the most part. Now, what I was agreeing to is that he's surrounded by a team that's stacked, both on offense and defense. And we're at the time of year where every quarterback generally has some problems catching up. And whether it be Kirk Cousins or last year with Sam Darnold, have problems against especially a Flores defense. And we've yet to see him tragically fail. It's going to be interesting. He came back a little bit after, the 2 days ago in practice, and came back a little bit last night, and he threw a couple scoring drives and things like that we're hearing. He's learning. And when he was walking off the field with Phil Mackey talked about, rather than being, pissed off at the day, and he may have been, but he was, how am I going to fix this? I'm looking forward to this. I love this. It's the type of stuff we're hearing about his personality that I think is going to lead to success. Now, we've got to see it against another team. I believe we're going to have the number one defense in the league, and we'll get into that defense here in a bit. And it's hard to practice against. Ask Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins whined about it. Why are you showing me this? I'm not going to see this during the season. And that was 2 seasons ago. Not the third year of the Brian Flores experience. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it works out, but it will work out. And when we get to that joint practice, it's going to be interesting to see how he does. Does he sit there and dissect the Patriots defense? I don't know. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to it next Saturday.
I know I am too. It's going to be really interesting to kind of see how all of this develops. And I think it's going to be fun to watch all of this develop over the course of the next, 4 months. Because one of the big things with McCarthy is he's a first-time starter. We're going to have rookie bumps in the road. But those bumps are probably going to be eased because he's been in an NFL organization for a calendar year, extra than what a rookie would be. All those things factor in. But I do think the defense, being as good as it is giving McCarthy opportunities for growth. It's giving him opportunities to develop, even if it's the development isn't necessarily linear. It's not what you want to see, but you need to see bumps in the road and how he overcomes it. And by all accounts, as you mentioned, he's doing great. He's doing a great job. And those are the things you want to see. So we'll end up seeing how things continue to grow, but I think we should transition over to the defense for a second, then we'll get back to quarterback. The defense has just been on another level. Wednesday's practice, all the reports were that they just absolutely dominated the offense. And they just kicked their ass. And because of that, it gives you a real confidence, Dave, that this team is going to take things to a different level. And I'm excited to see what this will look like from a season-long perspective. But there are some things to keep in mind. For the most part, you're not utilizing Will Fries and Christian Darrisaw on the offensive line. They're getting in there with 11-on-11s, but it's not full-time. And because it's not full-time, there are opportunities to take advantage of guys like Blake Brandel, Justin School. 2, it's great to just see the absolutely dominant performance from guys like Van Ginkel, from Turner, and even guys like Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave being able to spring those guys in Grenard. It really gives you a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to do a lot this year. Stunts are theoretically going to be easier because you have a bigger, stronger guy as the crasher that's going to require more to block him. And it's instead of having Pat Jones and Jihad Ward do it, Jonathan Allen, who weighs 300 pounds, Javon Hargrave, who weighs 300 pounds, they're going to be the ones holding those blocks. And then Van Ginkel, Turner, and Grenard can just use their speed and quickness to get around and be able to attack the quarterback. I think that's going to be so interesting. And you still have Van Ginkel and Turner who can drop super fluidly. Grenard can also drop pretty well. This front is just dangerous and it rips. It rules. I'm really excited about it.
Best front seven in the league.
Oh, yeah. I think that you could make an argument of a couple teams that might be a little bit better, but I really like what the Vikings bring to the table in their front. Blake Cashman, I think, is an underrated linebacker. I think he's one of the better linebackers in football. Ivan Pace Jr., I've been very critical of, but what he's really good at, he's really good at. It's just you don't want him to play the Blake Cashman role. You want him to be Robin. He's great at Robin. Don't ask him to be Batman. And if you ask him to just play his role, he's going to be real, real good at it. And then the defensive line and edge rusher room. A lot of talent in there. Harrison Phillips is probably going to play like 200 less snaps this year. And it'll be good. You're going to be able to keep him fresher during games. And at the end of the year, he's going to be fresher. That's objectively great if you want to make that kind of Super Bowl run. Because you're asking him to do what he's really good at. You're not asking him to do a lot extra. And that was one of the problems with last year's team. I thought he was on the field a little too much in pass rush situations. And now you're going to ask him to play more of a first and second down role than he has been because of the lack of depth on the line. Well, now you don't have to worry about it. And I think that's really, really exciting on a whole, that this defensive line is going to be able to do a lot for you. And they are destroying the offense right now. The offense just can't do anything. And all of a sudden, you're just in a very, very fun spot, short and long term. So I'm really excited about what the defense is doing. And that we haven't even gotten to the secondary. They're getting a bunch of interceptions. Dwight McGlothern is on a 3-practice streak where he's gotten at least 1 interception.
That sounds like a trend.
Yep. 1 is an anomaly. 2 is okay, starting to see a pattern. 3 is a trend. That's kind of how I view it. Some people may kind of use that nuance a little differently, but I'm really excited about what Dwight McGlothern brings. He's got really good ball skills. His patience, I think, has really improved from last year. There's one play in particular where he was in the game against the Bears, where he was covering on the outside, and he exuded a lot of patience on a double move to the corner of the end zone, where he just did not let the receiver get behind him, and he just stayed with him, let him do his thing, and then carried him all the way into the end zone. Those things are great for what you want to see from a corner. Being aggressive is awesome. But what you really want is to play under control and to play smart football. That's what McGlothern is doing. This cornerback room has opportunities to thrive. McGlothern could earn real playing time this year. And I think it would be a great thing, especially because corner is such a volatile position. And it's interesting the strategy the Vikings have taken. They gave Byron Murphy Jr. initially a 2-year, $18 million deal where they're just like, hey, we're going to pay you X amount, but we're just not 100% sure how elite you can be. But he was also 25 years old after his 4th season. So he's young. He's only 27 right now. He's a young football player. And you just continuously take shots. You don't have to take him super high. They haven't taken a super high corner. They haven't taken one top 100 since that 2022 NFL draft. Mekhi Blackman was 102. This year, they didn't even take a corner in the NFL draft. But they got Zamiah Vaughn as a UDFA. And they're taking chances on like Isaiah Rodgers, who they believe is a starting caliber player. Jeff Okudah, who in my mind is a better version for what you want of him than what Shaq Griffin and Stephon Gilmore could bring you, which is somebody who can carry receivers down the field in man coverage. Those guys couldn't do it. Okudah can do it. And I think that's why he's here versus those other guys, because they just did not have the foot speed anymore to be able to carry receivers. Last year, in that Christmas Day game, it was the Saturday game before Christmas, Jeff Okudah was carrying Xavier Worthy up the field, running stride for stride with him. That guy is the fastest player in the history of the NFL Scouting Combine, 4.2 140. So if you can do that, well, hey, maybe we can kind of polish you up a little bit with some of your flaws and just minimize them so we can get what we want out of you, which is somebody who can kind of carry receivers down the field. There is some of that in his game. And now you have Dwight McGlothern and Zamaya Vaughn, who are tall, lankier prospects, good ball skills. Vaughn was a quarterback coming to Utah and has only played corner for a few years. So he's got room to grow, but how much room to grow do you want from it? Like a 23-year-old prospect? That's fine for UDFA. It's not somebody you want to spend a high draft pick on. And I think that's why having the Vikings give Vaughn a UDFA deal, you can afford to be a little bit more patient there. Where if you draft a first-round pick, I don't want a 23-year-old project. I want a 23-year-old finished product that's going to step on the field day one and perform. You can take more of those chances later on with age than you can early. So one of the reasons why I thought Hendon Hooker would be a waste of a draft pick, because he's 25 years old and you got to reteach him like everything. And he's got to relearn because he played in a Mickey Mouse offense. And
so speaking of Hendon Hooker, he's going to be on tonight.
I might watch some of it. I'm at least going to watch Big Brother first. Live eviction tonight on Big Brother.
I'm watching football, even if it's crappy football.
Oh, I mean, if you want to watch football, Dave, turn on TSN. We got the Calgary Stampeders against the Ottawa Red Blacks right now. CFL, baby. I love me some CFL. But there are some really interesting things to kind of continue to take a look. And another one of those, Dave, is backup quarterback. The Vikings have a backup quarterback problem. And it was something we talked about that could be a thing when they ended up acquiring Sam Howell. Because his biggest flaw is why he's not a starting quarterback anymore. He's a slow processor. And then I got Marzipan walking all over here like a crazy puppy. So one of the big things with Howell is he ends up just taking way too long to decipher what the defense is doing and making his decision to throw the football. If you're a quarter second late, that can be the difference between a catch and an interception.
Or a sack.
0.25 seconds. Yeah, and he took 65 of them. One of the top 10 highest totals ever for a single season in 2023 when he started 17 games. And that in itself is a big reason why he's not a starting quarterback anymore, because he just sees things too late, does not decipher quickly enough. And he's late on throws. He's holding the ball too long. And some of that stuff is manifesting in training camp. You can't be that slow. Now, with some of the play calls and stuff, I can understand if there's a little bit of slowness from Howell because he's new to the team. He's only been with the team for 3 months. And some of that can come. But once you kind of run the play again, then you'd be like, okay, we can't have that anymore. You have to speed this up. You've been in the league now. This is your 4th year. Some of that needs to kind of get ironed out and go away. Well, it's not going away. And those are some of the things that are really concerning. Brett Rippon has a baby arm. He's fun. He's got the mind for it. But he's a Kevin O'Connell, where O'Connell just did not have the juice to bring as an NFL quarterback. But he's a very, very, very smart mind, which is why he's a head coach in the National Football League. Rippon kind of feels like the same ilk. So when you take a look at it, if McCarthy, God forbid, gets hurt, this could be a 2016 situation where you just feel screwed at quarterback. And now all of a sudden you're punting on a potential Super Bowl caliber season because your quarterback is bleh.
Well, in 2016, it wasn't. I mean, we lost Teddy and got Sam.
But they had to panic to trade Sam. That's right. That's kind of the moral of that story.
But in 16, we lost all the offensive line by, halfway into the season, and it was done. That's the sort of feeling I would get if we're down to Sam Howell.
Thank you, David, for the super chat.
Thank you, sir.
I think the offensive line is a big factor, but they didn't have a better backup plan for Teddy Bridgewater. Now, it was supposed to be Taylor Heineke, but he needed to break into his apartment down in Mankato, and he kicked open that little side window
I don't
that's
think it
next
was
to
Mankato. I thought it was
maybe it was TCO.
in Virginia.
I thought it was here. Well, either way, he kicked that. There's that little window that you have that's next to doors often. I have one in my house. He kicked it open, shredded tendons in his ankle, and otherwise, he was probably the starter for 2016. And you don't trade that first round pick for Sam Bradford. So there are a lot of things, but overall, when it comes to the Vikings, Sam Howell is not inspiring any confidence right now. But we are just a weekend. That could change. He could kind of turn a corner with this offense and start to really figure it out. But there are real concerns there. And I'm intrigued to kind of see how that's going to manifest itself throughout the rest of training camp. Could be nothing. It could be everything. We'll kind of see over the course of time. But I have real concerns right now. We'll see how it develops. Next up, I think the wide receiver room's in an interesting spot. I think people on an overall scale expected too much from Ty Felton. Felton hasn't really done a whole lot to impress me when I've been out there. We haven't really heard much buzz for Ty Felton. Lucky Jackson is getting more options, more opportunities at wide receiver 3. Thank you, Anthony. We'll answer your question first. Sign Zach Moss can be for RB3. I don't think that's going to be something that they'll consider because I don't think Zach Moss is a special teamer. And that's what your RB3 is. And I think that element is often missing within the context of talking about running back 3. You have to be a good special teamer. Zach Moss is more of an RB2. He would replace Jordan Mason if Mason got hurt. I would consider that. But he's not a guy that you're going to want to be your personal pump protector and all that kind of stuff. That's what Ty Chandler's really good at. Does he struggle running the ball? Yeah. He needs to do pretty much just gap stuff. Because zone, he just doesn't have the vision for it. But he's a really good special teamer. Those elements are going to keep him on the team this year over a guy like Trey Stewart or Xavier Scott. So I don't think Moss would come in here, and they're not going to bring him in here to do those things. And honestly, I think you could argue Ty Chandler's better at those things than Moss is without having actually watched the tape, just kind of like a vibes and overall ability kind of thing. And I think that in itself would kind of eliminate Moss from the conversation. Where was I? Wide receiver. I think it's interesting the Lucky Jackson's getting extended run as the wide receiver 3 during camp. I do think it's interesting. He feels like the new Tristan Jackson, Dave, where he's that fan favorite wide receiver. And he's going to be that guy that's the fringe roster guy. They'd be like, man, he's been so good. How can you keep him off the roster? And then he doesn't make the roster and he's on the practice squad again. That to me feels like where Lucky Jackson is. I do think it's really cool to see him kind of mix in there with some of those players as like a wide receiver 3 kind of role, and being able to grow, develop, and evolve, I think is a really important factor here. When it comes to the rest of the room, Rondale Moore, I haven't seen a ton of juice from him. I've seen a little more juice than I expected from Silas Bolden, but he's so tiny. He's really small. I just don't see him being an NFL player.
That's what she said.
I know Kavontae Turpin is a similar size to Bolden, but he's way more explosive. And I think if you're going to be that small, you better have the juice. Where, like Darren Sproles, Dave, Darren Sproles was small, but he could run, and he was quick, and he was elusive, and he was also thick enough for tacklers who'd struggle to bring him down. he had a lot to offer outside of just being short. Bolden is short and small. And I think that's a problem. We'll kind of see how things go there. Tim Jones, I don't think he's really going to be much of a factor on offense. He's going to make the team on special teams. And unless he's bad on special teams, which he hasn't been his whole career, then I don't see him not making the roster, because that fifth, sixth wide receiver, special teams. He's the new Trent Sherfield. Sherfield got in a few snaps here and there as like a third wide receiver, usually in a blocking kind of role. Tim Jones is just taking over that position on the roster. And that's why I think he's going to end up making the team pretty much no matter what. Now, other things can happen. Maybe Lucky Jackson just plays so well that you just see Tim Jones as expendable and you just eat the $500,000 full guaranteed you gave him. But this wide receiver group overall is pretty interesting. And I'm intrigued to kind of see how things grow and develop within it. And we still don't know what that suspension could be for Jordan Addison. I still believe it'll be 3 games. If on appeal, he might be able to get it down to 2. But remember, it's not what he was officially convicted of, which was reckless, which was a reckless driving charge with alcohol involved. But it's what he did that they're going to focus on. And if they conclude in their investigation that he should have been charged with a DUI based on the evidence, then they're going to suspend him based on a DUI and not the charge that he was convicted of. So that's where things get a little more complicated.
Expect that to come out on a Friday news dump, and it may be delayed a week because of what happened in New York earlier in the week.
So I talked about this, I think, last week. So it was either last Wednesday or 2 Wednesdays ago where the Vikings found out that, hey, it was 2 weeks ago today, actually, with Jordan Addison. He accepted the plea. He just wanted to get it done and over with. It took about a month for Marcus May, who was arrested in 2021 on a DUI charge. And about a year and a half later, he pled down to a lesser charge. After the plea, it took about a month for the NFL to officially give him the suspension. So I would expect this suspension to come out probably after the second preseason game. I think that's probably going to be where and when it happens. And my guess is he might have already been given the suspension and that they've set a date for his hearing, but they're keeping it private. And sometimes they go through all the legal stuff and the appeals before anything comes out. Sometimes it comes out and then they just do appeals. A lot of it's just PR stuff where if it's super egregious, they're going to get it out immediately. If it's not viewed as egregious, they will kind of wait it out. And I think this might be a waited out case. We'll see. But he's going to get something for the personal conduct policy. The precedent is 3 games. So we'll see how that evolves. But I think Naylor looks better as far as he's bigger, his movement skills. You want to see him be a little bit more consistent catching the football. That was part of the problem last year. I don't think long-term he's better than a wide receiver 3. I wonder if he's going to get many looks in free agency next year and what the market could be for him. Because I think he's good, but I don't think he's great. How much are you willing to pay Jalen Naylor? Are you willing to pay him $10 million to come back? That would be a tough sell for me where we're at right now. But things could change over the next 4 or 5 months. And we'll see how things grow and develop. But right now, he's just a solid wide receiver 3. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there are guys who are getting more opportunities because of no Justin Jefferson, who I would not be surprised if he comes back to practice this week. But they're not going to push it. Nothing to win right now. Couple more things. Christian Darrisaw did return to 11 on 11 drills. I thought that was really, really good to see. Gives a little bit more credence, Dave, to him coming back this year. Him coming back for week 1.
Week 1. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I think that's a really, really good thing. Coming back from week 1 and being able to do some of those things, I think is really good. I don't think he needs to come back for week 1. If he does, it's awesome. I would say I'd like him back by like week 3 or 4. But if he doesn't come back like week 4, then just keep him out week 5 and give him an extra 2 weeks to just chill. This team is so uber conservative with injuries. The fact that he wasn't on PUP and he started practicing immediately and he's now already in 11 on 11s tells me that they really like where they're at, and he's probably going to go week 1. But you just never know with how conservative that this team really handles injuries like this. It could take a little bit. But I'm very, very positive about where things are at right now because of what he ended up with. He ended up having the surgery in the beginning of November. He was working out initially during mandatory minicamp, which, to my knowledge, was intentional to have him just the one day and have him in the building, see how things looked, see how things felt as a part of the process of his healing and his rehab. So I think it's a good thing that he's already doing some of this stuff, but let's not count our chickens yet. It's just a positive trend. 2 more things. The run game split. I think it's going to be very, very, as my eye itches, it's going to be a very even split. I think they love Jordan Mason. Wes Phillips talked about how they believe that he is a much better pass catcher than a lot of people believe he is. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think he needs to be this elite pass catcher. Just be a threat.
Now, on the split, are you talking between Jones and Mason or pass versus run?
Oh, I don't care about pass versus run splits. I care about success. If you're being really successful throwing the ball and you're not running the ball, throw it more, or vice versa. Like to
Brian O'Neill,
philosophy. To me, a balanced offense is not about running 50-50. It's about being able to do both at a high level, so it makes things harder on the defense and easier for you. To me, that's balance. And we can talk about, oh, you should be 50% run, 50% pass. Only if that's your best method of winning. Like if it's 60-40 or 70-30, I don't care. What's winning you football games? And are you good when you have that kind of split? If you're running the ball 70% of the time, but you suck at running the ball, you're doing yourself a disservice. So to me, I don't care what the percentages are. I do think that they'll have a higher percentage of running the football this year than they have in years past because they'll have the lead and they have backs that they're more comfortable with giving the run. Those things I think matter more than just, oh, they're running it 50% of the time. To me, that's just an arbitrary number that really doesn't mean anything. It's about what you do with the ball when you have it as an offense. And I think that is going to be the most important factor for the Vikings in order to really elevate this offense. But yeah, I do think it'll be more of a 50-50 split with Aaron Jones. Last year was like 2 or 3 series on for Aaron Jones, 1 series for Cam Akers, and they would keep that kind of rotation. This year, I don't even know if they'll do series. I think they may just switch plays. And Kevin O'Connell talked about the fact that they may be doing some 21 personnel stuff, which I am all for. Both guys can pass block. Both guys can like be a lead blocker if they need to be. I wouldn't use them as lead blockers, but you catch my drift. They can both catch the ball out of the backfield. I think Jones is more of a dynamic receiver and a route runner than Mason is, but I don't think Mason is void of that ability. I think you're just going to do some more basic running back route tree kind of stuff with him. And that's fine. You're not asking him to be this elite player. I want you to just be good, be competent. Like Adrian Peterson. If Adrian Peterson would have been a competent pass catcher outside of just screen passes, think of how much more dynamic those offenses would have been with Adrian Peterson. If you had him run like Texas routes, where it's like that little angle route up the middle. Holy crap. That could have elevated the Vikings to a different kind of stratosphere because it would have kept linebackers on edge. And if you keep linebackers thinking, that's when AP can just run by you. And those are the things that you have to look at. Everything's a setup. Everything's a chess match. Everything is, hey, I'm doing this so I can do this later. And Kevin O'Connell thinks that way. He talked about in his press conference a couple days ago where He's talking about, hey, when we're in this situation, these are the kind of things I'm thinking of. And you roll your eyes and you think, oh, this is dumb. But I think of everything. I have to think of what we're going to do on the kickoff. I have to think of, well, if we turn it over, what's going to happen? If we have to punt, what's going to happen? And I think of all those different situations. So I want you thinking of how this can impact that. And that can make this other thing a lot harder or easier. Those are the ways that we dominate situational football because of knowledge. And I think those kind of things, when you have two players like Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason who can do a little bit of everything, it makes things easier on O'Connell. And it makes it easier on O'Connell, that makes his play calling overall a little bit easier because he's going to feel comfortable calling the same kind of thing with Aaron Jones in the game as he would Jordan Mason. That is going to make things significantly easier and harder for the defense because they're not going to see Cam Akers and be like, okay, they're going to only run these kinds of packages. Well, they're going to run the same kind of stuff with Mason and Jones. And that matters. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to see how this running game ends up looking from a short and long-term basis. Last thing before we go here tonight, Dallas Turner. A lot of reports that he's just dominating. And I want to be cautiously optimistic here. And I'm going to say this not as a hater, but just don't get too overexcited. Just remember that Dallas Turner is going up against players like Justin SKOL, and he's dominating when he's on the second team. He's still playing well on the first team, but a lot of those domination periods are coming when he's a second team edge. So just be patient. Don't get too overexcited. And we'll kind of see how things grow and develop. I like where things are going. I like how he looks from a physicality standpoint. I like a lot of the reports and a lot of what I'm seeing. But just remember, when he just takes over a practice, a lot of that's against backups. And when you're playing a second team tackle, when Darrisaw's not playing, you're not playing Justin SKOL. You're playing Walter Rouse. You're playing like UDFA's like Logan Brown. He should take him to school. So those things all factor in. And it doesn't mean we shouldn't be excited about Turner. We should be. He's showing us we should be excited. But just temper the expectations a little bit. Because when he's dominating isn't always against the competition you think he is. And that's okay. I think he's going to be just fine. But it's worth noting. Just control the expectations just a little bit.
I think this Flores forged defense is just going to be outstanding this year. And Dallas will be part of that. And he's in his second year. Has he learned lessons from last year? Well, obviously in the training room he has. And is he demonstrating it on the field so far? So far. Let's see him against NFL competition at the beginning of the season. Has those steps that we see now actually real big steps? Do they, are they cemented when we get week 1, week 2, week 3?
Yeah. I'm excited to see his development. And I'm going to try real hard to not compare him to Chop Robinson every 5 minutes. I'm going to try real hard. God, I love Chop Robinson. Oh, everything I see out of Miami is just great. But that is our show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I am going to try and be at practice tomorrow. I might go Saturday too. We'll kind of see. Wife and I have plans and stuff, so that might not end up happening. But I'm really excited to see how things continue to grow and develop within the Vikings. And it's a really fun time right now. Training camp is a great time. It's a time of learning. It's a time of development. And there's a lot of really, really fun players. And I'm excited to see who ends up making the roster. I did, for A to Z Sports, drop my latest 53-man roster prediction. You can go check that out. The trenches, I didn't touch. Mainly because we haven't seen enough to really impact yet. I want to see the games. I can see cornerback wide receiver stuff. But trenches is harder during training camp. It's a lot easier to see in the games. So that's going to be where my focus is, trenches. And we're going to see a lot of interesting stuff. We'll be back on Monday. I will not be at the night practice on Monday for two reasons. One, it's sold out before I get a ticket. And two, night practice, there really isn't a ton you can glean from it. It's more of an all-star showcase to make the fans happy, which that's the whole point of the night practice, is to put on a show for the fans. So in the meantime, don't forget there is a 2 old bloggers this weekend, and I will be back on Monday. I'm Tyler. He's Dave. SKOL Vikings.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love, our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching the Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone!